Chapter 18. Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance, and he allied himself with Achab by marriage. And after a lapse of years he went down to Achab, to Samaria. And Achab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance, and for the people that were with him, and persuaded him to go up with him to Ramoth Gilead. And Achab king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat king of Judah, Wilt you go with me to Ramoth Gilead? And he answered him, I am as you are, and my people as your people, and we will be with you in war. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray you, at the word of the Lord today. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together 400 men, and said unto them, Shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, for God will deliver it into the hand of the king. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here besides a prophet of the Lord, that we might inquire of him? And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is yet one man by whom we may inquire of the Lord, but I hate him, for he never prophesieth good concerning me, but always evil. The same is Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer, and said, Fetch quickly Micaiah, the son of Imlah. Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah sat each on his throne, arrayed in their robes, and they sat in a threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets were prophesying before them, and Zedekiah the son of Kenaanah made him horns of iron, and said, Thus saith the Lord, With these shalt you gore the Arameans until they be consumed. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord will deliver it into the hand of the king. And the messenger that went to call Micaiah spoke to him, saying, Behold, the words of the prophets declare good to the king with one mouth. Let your word therefore, I pray you, be like one of theirs, and speak you good. And Micaiah said, As the Lord lives, what my God says, that will I speak. And when he was come to the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And he said, Go you up and prosper, and they shall be delivered into your hand. And the king said to him, How many times shall I adjure you, that you speak unto me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord? And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? And he said, Therefore hear you the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting upon his throne, and all the host of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who shall entice Achab, king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one spoke, saying after this manner, and another saying after that manner. And there came forth the Spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. And he said, You shall entice him, and shall prevail also. Go forth, and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning you. Then Zedekiah the son of Kenaanah came near, and smote Micaiah upon the cheek, and said, Which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto you? And Micaiah said, Behold, you shall see on that day, when you shall go into an inner chamber to hide yourself. And the king of Israel said, Take you Micaiah, and carry him back unto Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in the prison, and feed him with scant bread, and with scant water, until I return in peace. And Micaiah said, If you return at all in peace, the Lord hath not spoken by me. And he said, Hear you people, all of you. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into the battle. But put you on your robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into the battle. Now the king of Aram had commanded the captains of his chariots, saying, Fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, It is the king of Israel. Therefore they turned about to fight against him. But Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him, and God moved them to depart from him. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And a certain man drew his bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the lower armor and the breastplate. Therefore he said to the driver of the chariot, Turn your hand, and carry me out of the host, for I am sore wounded. And the battle increased that day. However, the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Arameans until the even. And about the time of the going down of the sun, he died. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. We're continuing in Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat's taken over, and he has sent teachers all through the land. He is teaching the law of God and the word of God, and he is prospering by it. God is prospering Jehoshaphat greatly. Once again, God using, for an example, these kings, even these ones he set to rule there. God did that. That's the work of God. Even in the beginning, it was the work of God. He gave them their king. And he said, keep the law. There was no difference in the covenant before or later. We're going to pick it up here in verse 1. Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance, and he allied himself with Achab by marriage. And Jehoshaphat is this one who God is placed under the law, or we can say he's already punished. He's punished them before, and they are under the law, and we'll find out that's exactly what Jehoshaphat was doing, and for bringing the law about, teaching the law, bringing people to understanding so that they could understand the law and keep it. And he had riches and honor in abundance, and God once again was raising him up, bringing fear on the other nations. God was working. God was going before him, see, and prospering him, even in understanding. And he allied himself with Achab by marriage. And Achab, he's the king of Israel. See it, Israel and Judah has been divided by great controversy, and we'll find out they contend with each other. But Achab has allied himself now with the other side, and that's with the sons of Jeroboam by marriage, and he would have taken the daughter of Achab, or even that understanding by marriage, of Achab, and Achab means my brother of father, this brother of father. 2. After a lapse of years, he went down to Achab to Samaria, and Achab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance, and for the people that were with him, and persuaded him to go with him to Ramoth Gilead. And after a lapse of years, after a lapse of some time, a period of time, and the period of understanding too, we'll find out, he went down to Achab to Samaria. He goes down to Achab in Samaria, and Samaria is that place of dregs, that place that is a place of dregs. It's what it means. It's the bottom of the barrel. And Achab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance. And he killed sheep and oxen. They had a great feast or festival. These sheep representing the lesser cattle, and the oxen the greater cattle. And the people that were with him, they had a great festival, and persuaded him to go up with him to Ramoth Gilead. And there we'll find he would speak to him about going up with him to battle the Arameans, these ones that have exalted themselves, and to Ramoth Gilead. And to Ramoth Gilead was a place that already belonged to Israel, but Ramoth Gilead had been taken over by the Arameans, and Ramoth Gilead is that hill. That's this hill or this high place there at Gilead. And Gilead is that place of the rocky region, but we know it as that place where the stones, even these stones of witness. 3. And Achab king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat king of Judah, Wilt you go with me to Ramoth Gilead? And he answered him, I am as you are, and my people is your people, and we will be with you in the war. And so now the king of Israel and the king of Judah made an alliance. Achab, my brother or father, man, even that which God has set the rule over, this king of Judah, those of praisings, and Israel, those that have contend with the mighty one, have made an alliance even in battle now. In the war, they're going to go up against the Arameans that have exalted themselves there at Ramoth Gilead, that high place, that's where the stones witness. 4. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray you, at the word of the Lord today. And Jehoshaphat, now he's made an alliance, saying, I'm just like you are, and my people are your people. We're going to go up here and fight these Arameans, except let's inquire of God. Let's ask God and inquire of him this day, even now, this understanding that we'll find out. God's got a little lesson in mind. 5. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said unto them, Shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, for God will deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king of Israel, he gathers up the prophets together. All these prophets, these probably weren't prophets of God, I would guess. These probably were prophets of the Baalim that was in the land at that time, even in Israel. We know they had turned greatly from the Lord, and they had these alternative altars over there. And now they have called these prophets together, these 400 men. It's 4. That's the work of God in judgment against these men. We're going to find out. See, God's got a little judgment planned. And these prophets say, Go, 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 go. God will deliver it into your hand, and we'll find out they're speaking for God. 6. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here, besides a prophet of the Lord, that we might inquire of him? But now Jehoshaphat says, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we might ask him? Because he could tell just by the way they were dressed who they were. See, and they weren't prophets of God. They were these prophets of these not a gods. 7. But Jehoshaphat wants to ask a prophet of God. 7. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is yet one man by whom we may inquire of the Lord, but I hate him, for he never prophesieth good concerning me, but always evil. The same is Micaiah the son of Imlah. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. So now the king of Judah, Jehoshaphat, he wants to know if there's a prophet of God still. And Ahab says, yeah, there's one man by whom we may ask of the Lord. There's one prophet of God left in the land. But I hate him. He never says anything good about me. He's always got something bad to say. His name's Micaiah. He's the son of Imlah. And Micaiah is this one like unto God. This one who is like unto God. He is the son of Imlah. And that is to be filled. That is to be filled of God. 8. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, Fetch quickly Micaiah the son of Imlah. Now we'll know. The king of Israel calls an officer up, one of his officers, he's in charge, and says, Go get Micaiah, the son of Imlah. Go get him. Go get this one that's like unto God. The son of this one that's filled, this one that comes forth of filled of God. 9. Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, sat each on his throne arrayed in their robes, and they sat in a threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets prophesying before them. Now we got the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, he's the king of Judah. They're ones that contend with the mighty one, and those are praising these two kings, each one sitting on his throne. Now we can witness these two sitting on their throne, arrayed in their robes, and they sat each one in the threshing floor, and that's that place where they separate. That's that place of separation, even where the doorway is at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and that's at the entrance where you go in and out. Even at the threshing floor there of the gate, that place of judgment of Samaria, that place of the dregs, and all the prophets prophesying before them, and all these speakers, these ones speaking before them, and that's what prophesying is. These prophets are prophesying. They're not prophets of God, we'll find out. They're prophets of these images which man had made. 10. And Zedekiah the son of Kenana made him horns of iron, and said, Thus saith the Lord, With these shalt you gore the Arameans until they be consumed. And Zedekiah, the just of God, he is the just of God, and he's that one come forth from Kenana. That's that lowland. That's that lowland Canaan, and it refers to that land of Canaan, and that lowland, that valley spot there, that place of flesh. He is that merchant, that trader, that one who does business there in the place of flesh, even buying and selling. He made horns of iron, and these horns represent these great strengths of iron. Iron is that laws of men, these ordinances of men, this yoke even men smelt out and make, and burdens they cause upon you, saying it's the word of God. Thus saith the Lord, With these shalt you gore the Edomians until they be consumed. And now this Zedekiah, he's the just of God, says, Thus saith the Lord, and we'll find out these horns that he's made. He says, Thus shalt you gore the Arameans, these ones that have exalted themselves, until they be destroyed. 11. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead, and prosper, for the Lord will deliver it into the hand of the king. And all the prophets, all these ones who prophesied for God, but it's for their Balaam. They're not a God which God had given them. He was ruling over them. They're saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead. Go up to that high place, that place where the stones can witness. And prosper, for the Lord will deliver it into the works of the king. See, these works of the king even. 12. And the messenger that went to call Micaiah spoke to him, saying, Behold, the words of the prophets declare good to the king with one mouth. Let your word, therefore, I pray you, be like one of theirs, and speak you good. Now this messenger, this was that officer the king had sent to go to get Micaiah, this one who is like unto God, spoke to him, saying, Behold, the words of these speakers declare good to the king with one mouth. They all got one word for the king. Now let your word, therefore, I pray you, be like one of theirs, and speak you good. So the messenger's telling him, hey, everybody's got something good to say about all this. Now, you do the same. 13. And Micaiah said, As the Lord lives, what my God says, that will I speak. But Mikael's reply to him is this one who's like unto God, as the Lord lives. What my God says, that will I speak. Whatever God says, that's what he's going to say. He's not going to listen to what everybody else is saying. 14. And when he was come to the king said unto him, Mikael, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And he said, Go you up, and prosper, and they shall be delivered into your hand. And now they bring him to the king, and the king asks him, say, Mikael, this one like unto God, shall we go up to Ramoth Gilead to battle? Shall we go up to this high place, where these stones of witness are, and go to battle? Or shall I forbear? And he says, Go up there and prosper. They shall be delivered into your hand. 15. And the king said to him, How many times shall I adjure you that you speak unto me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord? And the king already wasn't going to believe anything he said. He was already convinced in his mind that he was a liar already. When they brought him forward, he already knew whatever he said was going to be a lie. But now he's totally agreeing with what everybody else is saying. Yeah, go on up there. And the king says, How many times shall I adjure? This word is to ask in a more pleading way. You to speak unto me nothing but truth in the name of God. I've asked you over and over, nicely now, to don't lie to me. 16. And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the mountains, and sheeps that have no shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master, let them return every man to his house in peace. And now this vision, we find out that from Mikael said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the mountains as sheep that have no shepherd. Just like sheep, this vision, see, comparison even of these sheep, these being the lesser cattle, all Israel, scattered out. They got no shepherd. There's no one watching over the flock. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And let every man return to his house in peace, because what it was is God was getting ready to, and we're talking about Israel, those that contend with the Mighty One. They're separated at this time by Judah and Israel, and God's going to make an example out of one. We'll watch this. He is going to smite the shepherd, and this would be their king. 17. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I told you what he was going to say had nothing good, there's nothing good in it, even though he's totally agreeing with what all the other prophets are saying. 18. And he said, Therefore hear you the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting upon his throne, and all the host of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And he said, I saw the Lord. And this isn't a vision. This is a similitude. What he's doing, he's going to use this as a vision, or we can see this in a way of perception and liken it unto what is going to happen. Hear you the word of the Lord. Hear you this word, even this that's spoken. This. I saw the Lord sitting upon his throne. This God sitting there upon his place of judgment, his throne, the place where he rules from, and all the host of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And all the host, everything else of heaven, all of understanding, everything of earth that works for God, standing on his right hand, that's for his work, over here for his strength, and on his left. And that is for his witness, and that is for his doing, see? That this, what God does. God rules. This is his throne. 19. And the Lord said, Who shall entice Achab, king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one spoke, saying, After this manner, and another saying, After that manner. So now God's sitting upon his throne, and he asks, who's going to go up and entice, or lure even, Achab, the king of Israel, the brother of father. He's the king of all those that contend with the mighty one, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead, this high place where the stones witness. And one spoke after this, and then after that. Everybody had an idea. 20. And there came forth this spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And the spirit comes forth to this understanding, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will entice him. And the Lord asked the spirit, How can you do this? 21. And he said, I will go forth, and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. And he said, You shall entice him, and shall prevail also. Go forth and do so. So now, this spirit replies and says, I'll go forth and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of his prophets. Let me go forth. I'll be a liar in the understanding of all those that speak, even to the king, and all his speakers. These ones, they aren't speakers of God. God's going to make an example of them. And he said, You shall entice him, and shall prevail also. Go forth and do so. And God sends the spirit, this lying spirit, into the mouth of all the prophets there. And they stand around prophesying to the king in the name of God, having a Balaam before them. 22. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning you. Now therefore, behold, look and see and watch. The Lord put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, these ones that speak unto you, these prophets, these speakers, this lying spirit. See, this lying spirit, this understanding that is a lie, it's in the mouth, those ones that speak, these words that they're speaking, and the Lord has spoken evil concerning you. And we'll find out God's making an example. 23. Then Zedekiah, the son of Kenaniah, came near and smote Micaiah upon the cheek, and said, Which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto you? And now Zedekiah, this just of God, he's the one that come forth from Kenaniah, this lowland. He's out of the trader. He worships not a god. He's a prophet of one of these not a gods. He come up and he smote Micaiah, this one like unto God, on the cheek, on the side of the face, one side or another. And which way went the Spirit of the Lord for me to speak unto you? He said, and that what that means is, now which way came that Spirit, good or evil, for me to come up and slap you upside your face? 24. And Micaiah said, Behold, you shall see on that day, when you shall go into an inner chamber to hide yourself. And Micaiah tells, you'll find out on the day, even in that understanding, when you go into an inner chamber to hide yourself and try to hide there, inside, we'll find out God knows where you're at. You can't hide nowhere. 25. And we find this story written when he runs in and hides. 25. And the king of Israel said, Take you Micaiah, and carry him back unto Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and the king of Israel. That's Achab. Take you Micaiah, and carry him back unto Ammon, the governor of the city. And now take Micaiah, this one like God, take him back to Ammon. Ammon's that master craftsman. He's that master workman. He's the governor, this one over. He's of the city. That place has a watch. And Joash, he's the king's son. He's the one that come forth from the king, is Joash, and that's God is consumed. They gonna take him back, see, because they probably already had Micaiah in prison. They knew where he was. 26, and say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in prison, and feed him with scant bread and scant water, till I return in peace. And the king tells the messenger, Take him back here to the governor of the city. Tell him to put him in prison. Don't give him much water and much bread to eat. There ain't no substance. Don't give him no substance. Don't give him no water. Don't tell him nothing. Teach him nothing. Till I return in peace. Until Achab returns. 27. Micaiah said, if you return at all in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me. And he said, hear you peoples, all of you. And Micaiah said, there's one who's like unto God. If you return at all in peace, the Lord's not spoken by me. If you come back at all, God didn't tell me to tell you that. And he said, hear you the people, all of you. So he's telling everybody that's standing around, he's speaking up loud enough where everybody can hear. 28. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to remote Gilead. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, he's the king of Judah, Achab and Jehoshaphat, both of them, all their armies, go up to remote Gilead. That's that place, that high place, that hill, where the stones witness, that rocky region, they say. 29. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into the battle, but put you on your roads. So the king of Israel disguised himself. They went into the battle. And the king of Israel, Achab, he says to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into the battle. I'm going to put on regular clothes like a regular soldier and run up into the battle. But you dress up in your robes, they'll know you're the king. And the king of Israel disguised himself. So now he's going to try to hide in the battle, because he already knows that they're gunning for him. They was already gunning for him, so to speak. They was looking for him, going to kill him. 30. Now the king of Aram had commanded the captains of the chariots, saying, fight neither with small nor great, except only with the king of Israel. Now the king of Aram, that's the ones who exalt themselves, they live exaltedly, representing those kings from the before, commanded these captains of his chariots, these ones that was over his chariots, these war machines, these judgments, saying, fight neither with small nor great, except only with the king of Israel. Don't fight with nobody but the king of Israel. Find him and kill him. 31. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, it is the king of Israel. Therefore they turned about to fight against him. But Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him, and God moved them to depart from him. Now when the captains of all the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, it is the king of Israel, they thought it was Achab. Therefore they turned and to go kill him. But Jehoshaphat cries out, and the Lord helped him. We'll find out that God helped him, because God was prospering Jehoshaphat, this one who he set rule over, this law over, was making an example of, and God's still going to help him, because he cries out unto God, and God moves them to depart from him. 32. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him. And when they got close enough to see it, it's not Achab, it's Jehoshaphat, they take off trying to find Achab. 33. Because they was commanded by the king of Aram to not fight against small or great, except only Achab. 33. And a certain man drew his bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the lower armor and the breastplate. Wherefore he said to the driver of the chariot, turn your hand, and carry me out of the host, for I am sore wounded. And just a certain man drew his bow at a venture. It was a lucky shot. There ain't no luck involved. And he smote the king of Israel between the lower armor and the breastplate. And he hit Achab right between that lower armor, that place that guards down the lower portion, and his breastplate, the upper portion, and a little chink in the plate there, a little crack there it went through. It smote him. He wounded him in the bowels. Wherefore said he to his driver of the chariot, this one who was riding him, driving him around, turn your hand, turn your works, and carry me out of the host. Take me out of the battle. For I've been sore wounded. I've been hit, and we'll find out it will be the death of him. There ain't no luck involved. See, you can't hide from God when God's got judgment coming for you. He'll find you no matter where you hide. You can disguise yourself, but God knows who you are and right where you're at. 34. And the battle increased that day. However, the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Arameans until the evening. About the time of the going down of the sun, he died. So Acah, brother, father, king of Israel, those ones that contend with the mighty one, he stays himself up into the chariot against these ones that exalted themselves. He went and hid out of the battle, though, until the evening. It's about the time the sun goes down. That's about the time of darkness coming on. He dies. He dies. He passes on. We'll find out, and we're going to continue, see, in the story. And chapter 19, turn and return.